Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Aftermath Hours, the weekly podcast of. Oh no, wait 1 second. I got to start that over because my own audio is going. Okay, I'm doing that again. That was a practice take. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Aftermath Hours, the weekly podcast of Aftermath.site, a worker owned, reader supported website about video games, the internet, and everything that comes after. Aftermath is for the moment fully reader supported, so if you like what you hear, you can subscribe just by going to the website. We don't have, or our custom URL for it now is really unwieldy, so just go, there's a button. If you don't have a ton of money right now, we'd really appreciate if you could review the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Also, if you do have a ton of money right now, you can buy a gift subscription and give it to someone for the holidays. Isn't that fun? On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Larian, the developer of Baldur's Gate and Divinity, and their ill-advised forays into AI, which have been very controversial this week. And then we're also going to hand out our first annual and maybe last annual, depending on how it goes, Stuff of the Year awards to anything that we want to talk about, really.
Duff?
Anyway, I am Nathan Grayson, and today I'm joined by Chris Person.
Hey, did you say Duff?
Stuff.
Oh, stuff. I
Yeah,
thought you were
stuff.
like I thought you meant like it was like an L, like somebody fucked up.
Now, we talked about this yesterday. You know what it
I
is.
know, I know. I like
um,
mishearing things. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's all good. And then we are also joined by Riley McLeod.
Hello.
Yeah. So also, this is our, I should say, for programming notes purposes, this is our final stream of the year because the next 2 Thursdays are Christmas and New Year's, so we'll not be around for either of those. So yeah, this is an auspicious occasion. It's been a crazy year, in the sense of the world
Mm.
and everything, but also it's been a crazy year for Aftermath. Just want to say right off the top, we really appreciate everyone supporting us, and both in terms of people who've been around for a long time, and also new folks who maybe just joined as a result of the recent sale or sometime this year or whatever else. It's been really cool to get to do this.
Yeah, I want to agree that just like it's felt really good over the last like month in particular. I don't know like why. I think it's just it's felt like something uh I don't know. Like even just outside of us, it's felt like a really nice environment for writing, and by extension, like talking about writing. And like I feel really happy that everyone's here and that everyone wants to be a part of this. It's really really affirming because this is our
Yeah.
job. This is our whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely sometimes, as you know from working with me, I think about all the things I wish were better, or that I were doing better, or all the things that have to be done. And I think the end of the year is always a nice time to be like, oh, but like it's working, and all these people love it, and I think that I can get a little bit blinders and forget to like take stock of that. So it is, super exciting. I feel like in the last couple of weeks, I've had a lot of talks with like other people who are running things or thinking about starting a thing, and like that is always like I think we've said this before, but being the kind of person that other people can go to for advice and like having advice is always like really exciting to me, and always makes me feel like, oh, I'm doing something right, which I always
Yeah.
appreciate.
Yeah. As ever, we can at least say, don't make our mistakes.
Yeah, that's like
Be
ninety
better
percent
than we were
of
when we
my.
first started.
There's all the things I
Caveat.
wish we
And
didn't
Caveat, you
do.
will make your own mistakes that we do
yeah, I was
not
about to say,
have. We do. This is the fucked up thing. You'll have new mistakes.
yeah, you
Yeah.
will innovate in the field of mistake making. One that is ever growing, and see, one that, well, I was going to say that can't be replaced by AI, but AI, that's its main thing, is making mistakes. So actually, if there's anywhere that AI could take over, it's that. Speaking of AI, that is our first topic today,
Again.
because, again, uh, you've
Happens.
probably already heard if you are a listener of this show, but this week, an interview went out with basically Larian's CEO talking to Jason Schreier from Bloomberg about kind of how the studio has been using AI in recent times, and it was not well received at all, as you can imagine. I think that the CEO of Larian, Swen Vincke, was surprised by how negative people were about it and how much blowback there was. But yeah, like the short version is that Jason asked about generative AI in general, and then sort of went into topics like concept art, placeholders, stub dialogue, and things like that. And let's see, just to give you the direct quote, Sven said, let's see, in terms of generation, like white boxing, yes, there's things, but I'm not 100% sure if you're actually seeing speed ups that much. You're trying more stuff. Having tried stuff out, I don't actually think it accelerates things because there's a lot of hype out there. I haven't really seen, oh, this is really going to replace things. I haven't seen that. I've seen a lot of where you initially get excited, oh, this could be cool, and then you say, in the end, it doesn't really do the thing. Everything is human actors. We're writing everything ourselves. There's no generated assets that you're going to see in the game. We're trying to use generated assets to accelerate whiteboxing. But I mean, to be fair, we're talking about basic things to help level designers. So that, Jason asked about concept art. So that's being used by concept artists. They use it the same like they would use photos. We have like 30 concept artists at this point or something like that. So we bought a boutique concept art firm at the moment that everybody was using, reducing them because they were going to AI. In our case, it just went up. If there's one thing artists keep on asking for, it's more concept artists. What they use it for is exploration. And so basically, this is his entire point: is like, okay, we're not putting these things directly in the game. We are instead using them to like help people generate ideas. But of course, then if you get into what that actually means, Luke wrote a piece for us about how artists like using references and like doing things like that. That's part of the creative process as opposed to just typing a prompt into a like box or whatever and then getting not even a real reference but some sort of strange amalgam of either real pictures or things that other artists have made.
Well, the thing that gets me the most about that quote is like, I mean, the thing about it that's so annoying is like I think you're getting this point where people recognize that people hate AI. Like if you work in a C-suite, they know that like, okay, people don't like this. It's kind of, we have to be super careful if we want to do the thing we actually want to do, which is to use it for like business guy mindset. I need to 10x something. Like the whole thing where he's like, oh, you got to be like fast because what if somebody else, like I think Jason posted a larger quote eventually where and the extra context, because I think he was like, oh, you've taken out of context. The extra context is if anything more damning because he's sort of
I mean, I was reading straight from the transcript.
Oh yeah. But like the thing was he the interview went up, he said there's more context, and then you look at the more context, like I don't think the more context makes you look better.
It's pretty much as was conveyed in the article.
If anything, a little worse, because it's this whole idea of like, okay, look, I get it. You guys don't like this. The people who work for us don't like it. It doesn't really help anything. It kind of feels like a Dewey Cox like cutaway joke. It doesn't help anything.
Right.
It gets things wrong. It's plagiarism. You know what I mean? Like he went through the litany of things, and then it's like that kind of turn of like, but what if someone else uses it and it makes them better? And I'm like, but you've already listed all the liabilities. And like more importantly, concept art rocks. I mean, like he brought up art books and I'm like, I love looking at art. That's like the best part.
Yeah, and in fairness, like they said that, this is to help concept artists generate ideas. They're saying that like they've hired a ton of concept artists. They plan to only hire more.
I understand.
To be fair to them.
I do think that's correct.
But and they've like sort of in the following days, because this happened earlier this week, and in the days since, they have been, at least the kind of higher ups at Larian have been digging their heels in, justifying all of this, trying to explain their way out of it. Another Larian employee who goes by Cromwell on Twitter said it means, for example, that an artist might have an idea or someone else may want to express a base idea they don't know how to express. And so instead of scrolling Google for hours or typing it out, they'll generate their idea so an artist can better picture what they're trying to say. It is a way of talking to each other, and then the artist will go and do their job of making art instead of photo bashing to express, for example. But, as people like... Yeah, but I mean, like, people today have been posting about how they handle it. Let's see, we had a Brandon Sheffield be like, if you want to communicate your idea to an artist, all you need is 30 seconds and the basic ability to grip a pen. And he showed a picture of like a really early, concept of a boss fight for Demon School. That's just like little stick figures and a big guy on the edge of the level, with a big guy saying, "I'm huge," and then the like actual version of it in game, and it looks sick as hell. Really detailed, but it does not stray far from that initial concept. It's like, yeah, you can, it's not that hard to convey the broad strokes of something, even if you are not artistically talented whatsoever. People have been doing this for our entire history, the whole of humanity.
Yeah, I worked really briefly at a company that made educational games for kids as a narrative designer, and I feel like we did that all the time. Like, he just drew some stick figures and was like this, and
Yeah.
like it's fine, man. Yeah.
But also just there's this other conceptual part of like AI gets things wrong. It is an average. It's mediocre and it's incorrect. And like
Right.
that shouldn't be your basis for something. And also like if you're asking it for something, you're like draw me this thing. It's going to give you a sum, like an average sum of those things. The composition will be kind of fucked up and wrong sometimes. And it's like you can just go on ArtStation, dude, or you could fucking do anything. Like not just Google. Like the this concept that like oh it's about ideas, like we need more ideas. It's like no, there's plenty of fucking ideas out there, man. We are not wanting for ideas. You don't need to,
Yeah.
you
If
don't need an
anything, that's kind of the
AI.
problem is that, we've hit not a saturation point with ideas, but the way the internet works means that everyone is putting their ideas out there constantly. There's
Yeah,
so many ideas that we can never hope to sift through all of them. Many of them are quite bad, but they're all out there. Um, and then
You,
another part of it, oh, go ahead.
so do you think this has some tie into the things we saw a couple weeks ago with like the that I read about a couple weeks ago with the Fortnite sprays and with the whole postal thing, where like in both cases you had companies having saying they hadn't used AI and then realizing maybe they had. I think in the case of the Fortnite one, the guy who made the spray, which people accused of being AI, was like, oh, maybe I accidentally grabbed an AI clock, which as a concept I find hilarious because it's like it's a clock. Like their whole deal is like you can tell if they're wrong right away. That's kind of their whole thing. Um, and it seems like is it kind of a similar thing? You're using these faulty this faulty source material in whatever way, and how do you keep that from filtering into whatever you're doing? Like even your
Yeah, I
best
mean,
intentions
there's
clearly would
definitely
be able
that
to
there's
not
definitely
work.
that risk, right? And we've seen it happen too with other games as well. Claire Obscure had it happen,
yeah,
multi-game of the year award winner Claire Obscure shipped with like some accidental AI assets and they patched them out.
yeah.
But it was funny to see people too like this week being like, why didn't people have a problem with this in Claire Obscure? And it's like, have you forgotten earlier this year? People had a problem with that in
Yeah,
Claire Obscure.
people had a problem with it. They were, I will say, they were pretty quick to figure it out, and I don't necessarily think like that was also like
It didn't
the
blow up this way.
it didn't blow up this way.
Um,
I think also because we have context.
Mm.
That's the other thing is like this was kind of the moment where we had the conversation about are placeholders worth it. Like
right.
that was the context that gave us that, and now we wouldn't have that. Now that we have that context, now you would be probably madder if they did that shit again, or if they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't think it erases it, but I do think that like figuring out chronologically when stuff happened is kind of important because these are how conversations happen.
Well, the other, big factor here is that in the case of Claire Obscure, they were like, yeah, that was there. We patched it out, whatever. Whereas again, Larian is just like super digging their heels in. So even today, Sven Vincke posted another like statement where he tried to justify it. He said, "It's been a week since we announced Divinity, our next RPG, and a lot has become lost in translation." I don't know about that. Larian's DNA is agency. Everything we work towards is to the benefit of teams, games, and players. A better workday and a better game. Our success comes from empowering people to work in their own way and bring the best out of their skill and craft so that we can make the best RPGs we can possibly make. In that context, it would be irresponsible for us not to evaluate new technologies. However, our processes are always evolving, and where they are not efficient or fail to align with who we are, we will make changes. To give you more insight, we'll do an AMA featuring our different departments after the holiday break, in which you'll get the opportunity to ask us questions you have about Divinity and our dev process directly. Um, so yeah, they're clearly doing damage control, but also they're sticking by this. They're like, yeah, it would be irresponsible not to. But what does that mean? Why would it be irresponsible, to not use the thing that a lot of people have been saying doesn't work very well? And that, so far the main people who are trying to say, oh yeah, you've got to use this, you have, like, it's inevitable, are the people trying to sell it to you.
You know, it, sorry, I didn't mean to, Riley, if you wanted to say something, but like, it kind of reminds me of like James Cameron specifically, and then George Miller, like Mad Max director. They
Yeah.
both kind of had weird AI booster comments, and like it's interesting because they're both very people who make intentional things. You know what I mean? Like their
Yeah.
bread and butter is to make things that are considered and like take a lot of work. And I think with
Yeah.
Miller, he used it for the last Furiosa movie to, I think they used some AI voice tweaking stuff to make her sound like the other actress. And it's like, okay, that's like an edge case or whatever you want to talk about, like the
Nah, it's not the worst thing in the
not the
world.
worst thing in the world, but then he went and did like a weird fucked up festival, and like you're getting these people, I think, who understand conceptually, like, oh wait, I can't like fully just make stuff with AI, because I that's like my whole deal. But like,
Yeah.
they are also older and a little older and wealthier, and to them they're like, oh, but what if it made me like way a little bit more money, you know what I mean? What if it did this little thing for me? What if it like
Right.
got me to this place? And I think that like trying to watch that specific kind of person reconcile it is interesting, because it's a
Mm.
very because they have podcast CEO brain, but they don't but they don't like they haven't reckoned with the consequences with it, when their whole deal, like Larian's whole deal, is intentionality and art. You know what
Mm.
I mean?
Right, right. I mean, yeah, they in fact, this is the thing that is crazy to me about all of it is like they just spent, they're coming off Baldur's Gate 3 and the goodwill amassed from that, which specifically was about how, they took their time, they built their studio in their own way. They didn't like give in to trends. They didn't like seek out, they didn't try to get their bag by making like a live service game or whatever. They instead made a game that is like, as you're saying, very intentionally crafted, very meticulously made, the kind of game where like years down the line people are still finding new little things
Yeah.
that, like new pieces of dialogue, new potential interactions. um and like, the main message of all of that was like make games that are by people for people,
Yeah.
and like you will find an audience, and in
Yep.
fact the audience will be huge potentially. And now they're like, by the way, we got to do AI, we have no choice. And it's like, no, you have a choice. You just demonstrated how you have a choice with your last game. But it's that whole like CEO brained idea of, we got to increase efficiency because games
10x.
take a long time to make. And it's like, okay, but in your own interview, you just said that you haven't necessarily seen instances where it increases efficiency. Like that seems to be a pretty major sticking point if the main goal is to find a way to expedite the game development process, which is what all these CEOs want. That's what they were saying at EA, in their like kind of, pre-Saudi buyout, like financials and paperwork. That's what I mean. I bet you $1 million or something like that. I'll never make $1 million. That because there's been a quote going around this week from the director of Fate of the Old Republic, the Star Wars KOTOR spiritual successor, who's like, "Yeah, we'll definitely get it out before 2030." And in my brain, I'm like, "I bet that means you're going to use AI, and that's your plan."
There was
Like, you're not saying that part out loud, but it's like, yeah, because we believe that we will have greater efficiency than ever before because of AI.
That's also very
I
funny
can't
because I like that game isn't real yet to me. Like the game is so
That's the
not
thing.
real. Like
Yeah.
how
Them
do you
saying
know?
they're going to have it out by 2030.
Sure,
It's like,
whatever.
you have a logo, brother.
You have like one like CG intro, and like you hired a couple of people that like seem very like talented and nice. But it's like
That's
you
the
don't
hard
know.
part.
You don't fucking know.
Right.
There was just
Right.
some games guy this week. I can't find it now, but I feel like I remember talking about it, saying the line that I think we hear a lot, which is like, everyone's using it, and if you don't use it, you're going to be left in the dust on it. And I think
Wouldn't
that,
you look fucking
like,
stupid?
I get the sense that some of it is that, like, nobody wants to get outpaced, and so like if it becomes the thing, it seems like people want to have proficiency in it, which I think is just like at this point. I don't know if any of you read that Wall Street Journal article today about the vending machine, but like I just feel like at this point, for the money that's going into it, if it was gonna suddenly be the inevitable future, like surely it would have more
Yeah.
success.
I kind of hate
Right.
that Wall
Yeah.
Street Journal article a little bit, even though
Yeah.
I agree with it, because they basically
For
it is kind of PR for Anthropic. Basically,
yeah.
they got like Anthropic did this thing where they like had Claude agents like decide how a vending machine works, and then they gave the Wall Street Journal a bigger, more fancy version of it, and they tried to convince the AI it was a communist, and thus sell them like a PlayStation 5 for like no money. And it's like very funny conceptually, but they're also like talking to the CEO, and he's like, "Yes, you guys are so smart for figuring that out. We're gonna fix all the
Yeah, see,
problems." And
like
it's like, I don't fucking care. Just throw a rock through the fucking glass.
I found that part really interesting. Where in the end they're like this, so
They kissed
they
it. They
screwed with
kissed
the
it.
machine.
They kissed the
Yeah,
machine.
like the machine ended up buying weird stuff and they broke
Yeah.
it, and that was the point. And the Anthropic guy is like, hooray, this is a sign that it'll be better one day and we can fix all these problems. And there's a part of me that's like, well, isn't that beautiful? Like, you had this disaster and you're like, oh, it's all good data to make it better. And like, except that it's like, it's tipped over from like a sunny optimism to like a desperate delusion
Yeah.
that's
Oh no, to
actually
like a cult
quite
like,
sad. Yeah.
delusion.
Because
I
I
Yeah.
love a good failed
yeah.
enthusiasm for a failed venture, but like,
Cactus
come on, man.
Galactus, Cactus
Crazy.
Galactus in the chat literally says this is the same as the "this is good for Bitcoin" line. It is the exact same
Right.
shit. This is really good for Bitcoin. No, it's not.
Yeah.
'Cause Bitcoin's
Um,
bad.
Yeah, I
right.
think they just keep, and other people have written about this, but I think that we're getting to this, like, you just can't believe your own eyes point every time it's shit. I feel like the people who need it to work are like, it's not shit.
Yeah,
And
they're like,
like,
actually, this rules. Actually, this
yeah,
is great. And
Or
every time that it
mhm,
gets worse or does something wrong,
it's actually
that's a
better.
sign that it's
Right.
actually really, really cool.
yeah,
And yeah, on
the
the right
like we
track.
know it's shit.
Yeah.
We know it's shit. It sucks. Isn't that funny? But what if it
Yeah.
wasn't one day? That's the
Well,
one
I
that's
mean,
insidious to me. That's the thing that fucks me up a little bit. It's not the
in a,
like, it's always fine because we know those people are full of shit. It's the like, but maybe one day it won't. Isn't it funny that it's
right.
fucked up now?
Yeah. Well, again, it's the fucking parlor trick of something being able to sound vaguely human or output images that look vaguely real. And our brains, because we have such powerful imaginations, you know, want to fill in the gaps and believe, like, okay, yeah, if this thing is most of the way there, then it will, achieve the other 10% somewhere down the line. Or, like, to my mind, it's already basically good enough. And it's like, no, but it's not, though. It's actually quite bad. You're just filling in the blanks like you do with everything because it's how our brains are designed to work. Um, the other part of the story, though, that I found like really galling is that, Larian's boss basically was like, well, at this point, I think all of our employees are okay with how we use AI. Which, of course, like,
Mm,
that's problematic on a lot of levels. For one,
mm.
a bunch of like, former employees took to Twitter and Blue Sky and they're like, I wasn't okay with it, actually. And then for two, this is part of the larger story of video game industry precarity. If you are not okay with how your studio is implementing AI, you're probably not going to make a fuss about it because you could lose your job. And right now, everyone in the games industry is jobless. So that's your one lifeline. And if you lose that, you might be cooked. And like, especially Larian being a studio where like a lot of people had to move for those jobs and things like that, you are just not going to risk it. So
A
it's like,
lot of
yeah, everyone's fine with it. It's like, I don't think they actually are. You're a boss speaking for everyone at your company, and your company employs hundreds of people. Like, come
a lot of
on.
people had to move and a lot of people had to go through like 20 job interviews. If let's
Right.
not forget, like a lot of people
Yeah.
had to go through a really bad hiring process apparently.
Yeah, for writers especially. There's been a lot of talk, for people who listen to or watch the show and aren't on Blue Sky. A lot of writers this week talked about how like it's an open secret in the games industry that the application process for Larian in particular is just a fucking nightmare. Where like, you've got to do tons and tons of interviews. It takes months. You've got to do a writing test that includes like
Uncompensated.
playable elements. It's uncompensated. Like, and then again, they might not get back to you for like a year or something, and just tell you, no, never mind, we went with somebody else. Yeah, like it is this thing that every writer in the industry will tell you about. It seems entirely miserable. But yeah, so you have all of this. You have all this precarity. You have again a boss speaking for the company, and basically like all these employees who I'm sure would want to say something if they felt safe doing so. And then it's like that also ties back into the AI conversation that people are worried about losing their jobs to AI. And then you have this example of how precarious things are and how that's already muzzling them. And it's just like, you know, a fucked up stew with every conceivable ingredient, of the ills of the games industry right now.
And in what is ostensibly like the good company, I think that's the thing that makes it
Right.
hurt most. It's like they're the good guys technically, and it's just
Yeah.
like yeah,
Or they were.
where have all the cowboys gone, man?
Hmm. And again, in the same way that I think it was unfair for Larian CEO to speak for the company in terms of people being okay, quote unquote, with AI, I think it's also unfair to judge the entire company
Yeah,
based on his statements. I think that there are many, many, many very creative and talented people at the studio, obviously. And I think that many of them probably don't agree with any of this at all and, you know, feel pretty terrible about it.
yes.
So hopefully
There's
this leads
yeah.
to a reckoning within the studio as opposed to them just kind of staying the course with a lot of people, both inside and outside, pissed off at them.
I will say, yeah, no, I think it's really important. like the doubling down part is the hard part, because it's like, I would like you to interrogate what you meant by that. I would like your employees to have a conversation with you. I would like you to be like, hey, yeah, this actually sucks. Like, I don't want you to be like, no, fucking fuck you. People yelled at me. You know what I mean? I don't want that to happen, ideally. Because I fucking want to play more Larian games. They're good games.
Yeah.
They're fucking good
Yeah.
games.
I mean, they rule.
Yeah,
You
they're
know,
pretty
Baldur's
good.
Gate 3 was amazing. And like people are sleeping on like Divinity Original Sin 2,
Mhm.
which is in some ways even better. Yeah, no, I mean their track record, especially in the past decade, is fucking stellar. But you know, this is also a kind of where the rubber meets the road point, and that
Yeah.
it's like, you know, let's say that they continue using AI. I think a lot of people who have been, you know, like hard line in the sand, no AI types are going to really have to like hold firm to their values here. So I think in other cases it's been like, you know, I think on one hand we've all probably accidentally played something that like AI was used in the creation of at this point. Often companies don't communicate it or communicate it well. And like a lot of companies are using AI. I mean, like everyone that I've talked to who's part of unionization processes is trying to secure AI protections because they're like, oh yeah, it's already use of it is pretty rampant at our studio. Um, you know, usually for things that are again, they don't end up in the final game, but yeah, for a lot of this like concepting and ideation and stuff. But at the same time, I think that there hasn't been like a high profile instance of this sort where we know that it's being used and it's a game that a lot of people would otherwise want to play like really badly.
I think a
And so this
couple.
is sort
There's
of the
been a
point where I think
couple.
it's like, yeah, but like, you know, it's games that I'm not sure that the audience that tends to be so anti-AI really cares about. Like this is multiplayer stuff like the finals and arc raiders and things of that nature. Um, the audience for Divinity feels pretty different from that. And I think a lot of the people who are in the audience for Divinity in games like Baldur's Gate are like much more, you know, conscientious about supporting artists and like the craft of a game because the game isn't just a playground, it's a giant world and a story that they get to experience. Um,
I think that it'll probably be some shit like Kojima. I think that'll be. I think it'll be a beloved Japanese studio that like really, because like I see a lot. I mean, that's already what was it? Not the No More Heroes, not Grasshopper proper, but like the people who took it over. They went through that whole thing where it's like,
yeah, they're like super doubling. Yeah, they're like using AI in a lot of facets of the game.
but
Yeah.
it's not sued us directly. It's complicated.
Right.
You know what
And
I mean?
it's one of
Like,
those things that's like kind of easy to skip. You're not like, oh man, I really want to play that, but I've got to, you know, again, stand up for what I believe in. Whereas with Divinity, if it stays this way, it's going to be like that.
yeah,
You know, you either live by the code that you've set forth, or like you say, okay, well, I'm going to be a total hypocrite because I want to play this. I want the shiny new toy. um, and I guess we'll see when Divinity comes out in 2048.
whenever, man.
Because you know even with AI, and I think especially with AI, games take fucking forever to make. So if nothing else, they'll
Will
have a long time to think about it.
That trailer
will
just
the pig puke into get puke in its mouth like in the trailer?
Jesus.
There were like two
I
puke related things that like happened at bare minimum in that trailer. It was a fucked up
I felt like
trailer.
such a video games moment of like watching it, and I'm like, I see how technically this is an impressive achievement, but as a person, like, oh man,
It was
and I think a
nasty,
lot of
bro.
people found the whole thing
yeah,
off-putting,
ugh,
which is an interesting way to introduce your new game to the world. Like especially
yeah,
when you know again you're coming off the success of this game where everyone enjoyed like the party members and like hanging out with characters, and you know I think that the audience that has formed around it again is sort of like you know, it's role playing game fans, but it's like BioWare fans. It's like cozy game adjacent people.
yeah,
And then it's like, okay, here's our new game. It's the gnarliest shit you will see in your whole life. Like,
man.
I mean,
yeah,
it is in
it's
keeping
certainly a
with the
turn.
world a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's not. I'm not going to be completely.
Sure, I've never played a
But like a
Divinity,
lot
so
of
I
people
Actually,
can't.
haven't
Divinity
played
Original
the
Sin
world.
too. Like, yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, those games have gnarly undertones, but the actual games themselves, at least the original Sin games, are like, you know, kind of lighthearted.
Don't
They're
the don't
it's a fairly like goofy RPG world.
don't the
Um,
elves cannibalize people for memories?
yeah, they do, and
Okay, I'm
but
just
that's
saying
just
they eat
metal.
people.
Yeah, that's
But
not.
that but
Yeah,
you could see how the metal, like I'm saying, it's not like it's a
yeah.
fucking. It's like you're making it sound to be like it was fucking like a Miyazaki movie or something like that, and then they just decided
Yeah.
to do like the end of the substance.
Yeah, that'd be funny though. But no, I got to stand next to the like physical real life version of that obelisk at the Game Awards last week because it was like right outside the theater, and it happened to be where all of the UVW people were protesting.
Mm.
And so that
Very
was just like
true.
the backdrop for the whole protest. And so it was like standing there like relatively inert. And then at, I don't know, 3 or 4 p.m. or something, it just started like smoking. Like it lit up and started emitting smoke. Yeah. It was very odd. I thought for sure someone was going to like emerge from it. Like that Jeff
Yeah.
Keighley was going to hatch out of it like it was an egg. Um, Unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Did
But
someone smoke inside it? Was there a tube? How did the smoke
no,
get
I
into
mean,
it?
it just seemed like it was built into it. Like it was like it was electronic and it was just like emitting
Huh.
smoke.
Wonder
Well,
how they
that's
Yeah.
controlled it.
nice.
Yeah. I don't know if I think it was the one that they like had out in the desert for the promo
You
shots
sure
and
it
everything.
wasn't exploding? I feel like it
I
would
mean,
startle me if it suddenly began smoking. I would be like, oh.
that's no, that's really dark. I was gonna be like, that's one way to prevent protests.
Oh.
Um, um, but yeah. All right. I think now it is time to move on to the awards segment of our own show. The Stuff of the Year Awards, which is a title that I came up with because I was like, man, I don't know. I think that awards carry far too much pomp and circumstance. I want them to have the opposite, which is to say, like, man, this is just 3 people saying, here's some things that we thought were cool or that we thought were bad, whatever you feel like. It really doesn't matter. I introduced this idea in our meeting yesterday with like a single sentence. I was just like, yeah, come up with something. I'm excited to see what you come up with based on that prompt. So, what's a thing or person or piece of garbage or whatever that you guys liked or that defined your year?
I think for me, the way I was conceptualizing this, because I thought about like game of the year stuff, and it's like I still kind of want to do this, but it's a little late, and I think we maybe moved it. It was like game of the year for freaks, because like I just
Yes, I think you
realized.
should do it.
I know I got fucking a lot of blocks.
And
But like I think this is more just like because there's a lot of like very mainstream games I like playing. I think we all live in that world. We all love our little blorbos and shit like that. Whatever you want to say, but like for me, I'm just doubling down on I like freak shit. You know what I mean? I like the weird titty shooter that like that one Japanese guy made who just completely shoot and does nothing but porno or like I need to finish like Hunterline and but it was like an incredible achievement and like I really enjoy I think like most of the games I've covered, like that have really stuck with me are just like, oh wow, that person who made that, I can see the ways in which they are singular. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Or like a weird, like a genuinely strange person to have gotten into a position of power to create a game. Whether it's like you're making just like I want to make the best arcade shooter, and my brother's going to do the music, and he's a trance musician independently of this, or like just like really committing to the purity of weird stuff, and I think that like that's what I've come along with is just like all these like tiny freak games that I really
mm,
enjoy.
yeah, and that makes sense. So what is a freak game that you want to specifically spotlight?
I mean, Psycho Patrol R, you know, the early access for that. I mean, like all the stuff we covered last week is all freak shit. I would say,
Mhm.
particular like Skate Story is I'm really liking that. Like, I remember Arctic Eggs was like last year, but that those guys have a new game coming out. It's a fishing game.
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know that.
I think Dia covered that for Paste, and it looks
Hmm.
really neat, and I really want to play it because I love Arctic Eggs, and the idea of the Arctic Eggs guys making a fishing game is just immediately like, fucking, let's go. I want to do that. Your weird fucking PlayStation 1 wobble style, like, it's like you tried to make home movies, but for like Slavic guys who smoke a lot on a
Mhm.
PlayStation 1. Like that shit rocks.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think that like I was sort of thinking about the ways in which people are ashamed of games, which I think is an organic, like, like we see these things as frivolous because they
Mhm.
are. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily need games in your life, technically, but like so is everything. And like I
Mhm.
think there's a kind of Catholicism that comes with that of like, well, we don't necessarily need games coverage or we don't need video games. It's not like food or technology. It's like, yeah, you need food, but like technology is like, I don't know, there's a lot of frivolous shit in technology. Like
Yeah,
and
of course.
and and so like how do you exceptionalize games and like what are you getting out of this that only this can do? And I cannot think of like a thing that like something like Psycho Patrol R or 100 Line Last Defense Academy is just like, I can't think of works that could do that sort of thing in any other place, and like and to the degree that they do. And like I also think that like you need to, like, as the horses thing showed us, like you need to sort of be emotionally in tune with freak shit, because that's the stuff they go for, like first. That's the stuff that's like in the most precarious, and it's the most interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's one of the awards that I was going to hand out, which is nontroversy of the year. And it's a tie between horses, or at least the hoopla surrounding that game, because it's not really deserved. Um, I mean, it's a vaguely interesting game, but it didn't deserve to like be removed from storefronts and all of this.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the other big controversy, Hassan Piker's dog.
I think
So,
Hassan Piker's dog is bigger. I think
it's a bigger controversy, but I think that they are both instances of people just like losing their minds over something that didn't really like. There was no substance to why people lost their minds.
I think the dog thing.
I'm gonna vote horses. I
Really?
think that like well, I
will
guess it
say that
depends how
one
you're.
definitely had more cultural impact than the other. Hassan Piker's
Yeah, I
dog
think.
was national news in fucking Israel. Like,
Well,
no, like
Yeah.
literally.
maybe
No.
interrogate that a little bit.
Because I was gonna
Yeah, I
say,
mean,
because I was
no,
gonna
there's a
say,
reason for
yeah,
that. There's definitely a reason for that. That's because,
right.
like,
Ooh,
he's a
that's
pro-Palestinian voice, and of course, they would use that as,
Yeah.
propaganda against him. But I'm just saying,
okay.
like, everyone talked about that shit. Whereas I think that if you talk to even the average like gamer about horses, they're like, "What? What's that?"
The thing
Right.
about it, I do think that like
Yeah,
people were,
maybe.
myself included, were a little mean. I do think that game is more Italian than people are giving it credit for, and it is saying things that are quintessentially Italian, even though it's still kind of corny, and we know the ups and downs of it. But I do think it's more, there was better writing that came out of it, and like that's the consequential part of it. Whereas like, what discourse can you say about Hassan's dog?
Yeah. Well, I
It's
mean,
that
what you can
it's
say
that
about
it's
it
that
is,
r/r live stream fails has like a mod that's like, like you can talk about the specific ways in which the mechanism for the Hassan's dog thing happened, and that's
yeah. Oh, I mean,
interesting.
and that's actually, I think, tremendously important. And again, I sort of wrote about it in my like TwitchCon piece and everything, about the way that like we now live in a world where everything is clip farming, or at least that people use real life,
Mm-hmm.
as fuel for this like very caustic and incendiary internet, where everything is taken out of context and like meant to, bring people down, or to show that someone is a villain, like, to paint them in these broad strokes, instead of in like a even particularly nuanced way, and that everyone is constantly like web sleuthing to find these things. Like, it's all just a giant mess born of, short form content and algorithms. And like, it's not a good path for humanity to be heading down. I don't like to see it. And, some of this could be old man yells at cloud, but I think it's also just, the results speak for themselves. The way that people treat each other as a result of this is just a net negative. It's bad. Um, but, it also seems to be what the internet is turning into.
Yeah, my argument was gonna be that like I was trying to define it as like when your normal friend asks you what it's about, like how far you have to back up. I have to be like, okay, so there's this guy, and then and he did. Whereas I feel like with horses, I could have been like, there's a video game, and it's like more. But I forgot about how far the dog thing went. So I think that even though it's hard to explain what happened that started the whole thing, I think it did go farther than horses, which
Yeah.
is
Well, first
Very,
off, the
very
guy
funny
had
that
a rat on a
just
windowsill.
yeah, right. Like you
yeah,
have to
yeah.
back up so far to explain to a normal person how this happened that like
Yeah, it's also very funny that disgraced leftist icon Noam Chomsky is in our chat asking for more information about the Hassan's dog incident.
yeah.
Good.
Noam Chomsky, why did you hang out with Steve Bannon?
It's a
Go
really
ahead
good
and
Yeah.
explain
question.
that to us.
Why were you
Yeah,
Why were you emailing Epstein?
yeah, yeah. What's going on there? Um, but yeah. So anyway, that's the controversy section. Riley, what is something that
I
defined your 2025?
I forgot about this. Uh mm, I don't know. I gotta think about it personally,
Uh,
just in my
okay.
life. I didn't think
I was
about how
hoping that by
sorry.
telling y'all this plan yesterday, you would prepare some.
I'll be honest, I completely forgot that you mentioned that.
Wonderful. Um,
I do
okay.
think in terms of freak games, though, the other night I was trying to finish the Seance of Blake Manor, which I wrote about,
Mhm.
which is this indie like mystery game. And I when I wrote about it, I had said how I feel like everybody got really into blueprints at the beginning of the year, and everyone was talking about blueprints and thinking about blueprints, and I
Mhm.
couldn't quite get into it. But I feel like this is my game where I like lie in bed and I think about it, and I'm like, oh my god, like everyone has to play this, and I feel like I'm a total like sicko for it, and it's really exciting. But I had put it down for a while and then I started again and I totally forgotten how to do everything and everything that was happening. And I was like, oh no, like I broke the spell. I should have finished it in one
Mm-hmm.
huge gulp. And so I feel like I've like wandered around being like, what was I doing? What's
Mhm.
happening? Um,
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that defined my year is is all these games that are really good and then you don't have time to play them and then it's like, will I ever finish this? Or like I think we were talking about this last week where I'm like, oh, I really need to finish Clair Obscur, but the thought of opening up Clair Obscur again and like remembering what the buttons do, I'm like, I'm doomed. Like there's no
Yeah.
way I'm ever gonna be able to pick this up again. And like I was trying to think about like what it is about that, like because like you can just if it's like I feel like I use the buttons as like a shorthand because you can go into the settings and you can remember what the buttons physically do, but it's like a vibe or a fluency with a
Yeah.
particular game that
Well,
I
yeah,
feel like
it's
there's
like
a
them
moment
becoming
where
like it's muscle memory. It's like the
yeah
reflexivity of it
you
as
lose
opposed to
it.
it being this thing that you've got to think about each time that you take an action.
I
Um,
Yeah,
I will
maybe that's
say,
my defining thing of my year is like this is really great, I'm
mm,
gonna do more of this, and then either something terrible happens and I didn't, or something new that was great came along, and then I was doing that instead. And so I feel like it's like a good and bad, a year of incompletion, I guess is my sums up a lot of my year maybe.
I will say there is something very seductive about not finishing an RPG, especially a JRPG coded game. Like when you're
So I've
right
never
at
really
the
played a
end.
giant.
When you're right at the end. Oh wow.
yeah.
Getting to like that cave mouth that Sephiroth's in and being like, what if I never finish this? Ooh,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
like fucking so good. It's so good. Cause you're like, well, I don't want the journey to end. And it's like you gotta
Right.
fucking
Right.
do it. Cause the
Well,
second you're like, what about all that content? What about the super bosses that I gotta kill? Emerald
it's too
weapon,
different.
ruby
Yeah.
weapon. No, you're never gonna do that shit. You're never gonna do that shit. So you just get analysis paralysis for the fucking super bosses, then you just don't finish that shit. That happened to me
I
with
felt
the
that
first Final
way.
Fantasy VII.
I
For the
felt that
first
way about
time
The
playing it.
Witcher, like The Witcher 3, where I remember, you're coming to the end, and then the real end of like the DLC, and I remember being like, well, no, there must be something else I can do first. Like, I don't want to go do this
Yeah.
boss, so there's got to be something. But that's like a good, like, I don't want it to be over. And even though, like, I think in games like that, like once you've beaten the boss, you can still do stuff. Like it loses something a little bit, you
Yeah.
know?
It feels like you're just doing like house cleaning. Like you're no
Yeah,
longer in
it's
it.
not the same.
This
Yeah.
And it
is
feels artificial because you already know how the journey ended, and it's like, oh, now we're back to being on the journey.
yeah.
But yeah.
This is also the main reason I hate Final Fantasy 15 is because there's this huge part of the game where they're like, here's a time dog you could talk to. And if you want to go back to that cool world that was like the best part of the game during this incredibly long tunnel segment, you can. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? I'm not going to talk. I've already left this world. It's not organic. You've made half the game this weird, fucked up, like, like on rail section. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. But
I
can
love
you
when you're
pet the
playing a
time
game
dog?
and
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
you're trying to avoid the end and you like come across a quest and you know it's a plot quest and you're like, no, not that. I'm not doing that.
Are you sure you'll never be able to go back? I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember being
I always
surprised by
hate.
that in Cyberpunk, where suddenly it was like you're at the point of no return, and I was like, I am.
Oh, what is
Mhm.
it? Hideko at Embers or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Right at the
Yeah.
very end before you
I
like
guess
do the
that's a
yeah.
game where
That's like
actually like
almost
once
iconic. The that line because
yeah,
everyone's just like, that's the one part where you can't play the game anymore.
Yeah.
yeah, but like once that part's over, I actually liked that game maybe more once all the plot was over.
Yeah. I do think it's
But
a
I played
place
it
that's
before
like
the patches and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. No, like Night City's just a fun place to hang out.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. Let's see. I am feeling some of that, like, having trouble returning to it, whatever, with one of the games that I have written down, which is a Promise Mascot Agency, which I do want to dive back into and actually write about for the site, during our quote unquote break. Um, just because it's like so cool and unique and weird and funny. It's a game where I mean, it's kind of what it says on the box. You have an agency of these mascot creature characters and you've got to manage them. You are a disgraced ex Yakuza member who's trying to, like, I guess, redeem himself by running this agency in a small podunk town while driving around in a beat up little truck that can also do platforming and that can survive a fall no matter the distance. Um, and like it's this mishmash of mechanics that you would never expect to work, but it rules. And again, it just facilitates this like oddball humor that is so immensely confident. Like the game never once sort of like winks at itself and it's like it doesn't do that thing where it's like look at how weird we are. It's just like no,
Yeah.
this is how this world works and this is how everyone reacts and this is just like this is our normal. Like you come here and you experience our normal and it might be weird to you, but we don't care. Um yeah, it's just awesome and I really want to get back into it and finish it because the time that I did spend with it earlier this year was great. But I'm like, okay, now I've got to remember how like all of the agency stuff works and all the management stuff and what I've got to upgrade and blah blah blah. So I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, it's a vibe. It's a vibe you get out of that it's hard to get back into.
Yeah. Let's see another kind of like game that I think from earlier this year that maybe that's worth bringing up that didn't get a ton of attention but deserved it is Eternal Strands. That
Mm.
game was sick. Um, like kind of an indie take on Dragon's Dogma or even Monster Hunter a little bit. Um, with some BioWare mixed in, honestly, because it's ex BioWare people who made it. And I do think that the BioWare parts are sort of its weakest, weirdly. Like the characters and dialogue, I find if not an off-putting, then at least like a little annoying, like a little too, quippy dialogue, that sort of a thing. Um, but the actual mechanics of like going into a giant kind of, relatively open level, not entirely open, but like, you know, this big place with many paths and like finding particular creatures and figuring out like what armor and weapon loadouts you need to bring them down and the fact that they can like, you can leap on them and ride them around like or rather while you're fighting them you've got to like attack them while being on them like a dragon will take off while you're fighting it and you're suddenly in the sky and you're like shit that kind of a thing like there's often no better feeling than those moments of just unexpected chaos that emerge from trying to take down a gigantic fucking beast
Yeah.
and few games manage to pull that off, especially when they're not AAA. And this game actually does in a way that I feel like is unique and fun and cool. The environments are all super destructible, so fights like leave all this wreckage behind them. Like it's a neat game. It's just a fun, cool game, and it's on sale right now according to people in chat. Um, yeah, 11.99. That's a lot of bang for your buck. If you haven't
That is a lot of
bought
bang
it
for
and
your
played
buck,
it,
yeah.
you should get this game. It's sick.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, what are some did y'all think of other things or do I gotta carry this?
I may need a second. I
Okay.
thought I
Let's
wasn't
see.
sure if we were doing like how long a second was going to be for that one. Sorry.
Yeah, no, just stuff. Stuff of
Oh,
the year.
I love like I mean if we're expanding just outside of games,
Mhm.
I love our beautiful boys. I love the beautiful boys of fucking of haha you clowns. That's it's just it's such a beguiling, strange show. Talked with it about talked to Isaiah about it, and we had a good article, and found out today that the boys are back for 2 more seasons. They've already been
Mhm.
renewed. Uh, so proud of those boys. So proud of those lovely boys, and yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of like bad TV out. There's a lot of TV that's just fine. There's a lot of TV that we're all sort of and like movies in general that we're all sort of parsing our feelings about. But it's just nice to have something that like even people I know, it just does this like really weird thing to them. Like
Mhm.
I saw people being like, it's about it's irony drenched. I was like, no, you guys are making this too complicated. The boys are nice, and like just big boys. They're handsome. They're nice. They love each other. They love their dad, and it's lovely. And now we get 2 more seasons of them.
Hell yeah. Yeah. See, that was
Um,
that's a good one. That's the Boys Are Back award
the
goes
boys
to.
are back in town.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was making this argument, which I hadn't thought of, but I think that they're right. That this has been a terrible year for being alive in the
Yeah.
world.
Oh yeah.
And they were arguing that there was kind of they were like very moved by the resistance, and I was like, what, like I don't know, it feels like nothing is, everyone is just rolling over. But like the fact that we're seeing all these terrible things happen, but it seems like a lot of regular everyday people are like, no fucking way to all of this
Mhm.
shit. You're seeing people stand up to ICE and things like that. I think in just a more kind of everyday way, as opposed to like just big protests or whatever. And I think that's quite moving. I was thinking today again, because they RFK and Dr. Oz want to take away healthcare from trans youth, which is an objectively insane people
Yeah.
sentence. But the way that you see people push back against that in a way that I think, when I was young would never have happened, and would be unfathomable to me, both that the people in charge would know what trans people are enough to try to stop them, and B, that regular everyday people would be like, that sucks, don't do that. And so there is in sort of all of this despair something a kind of reminder to me that like things are better than they used to be, which is sort of lovely in a terrible way. And I think how effective that resistance can be, I think is something that's still forming. But
Yeah.
I think there is in a terrible year, there is a bit of a like kind of a bright spot that like maybe people aren't as bad as you think, or whatever.
It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
It does
Yeah.
feel like that. It does feel like there's just this like groundswell of people who are just kind of normal and like reasonable,
Yeah.
in ways
Yeah.
that are
Being normal means like not being a monster, I think, in a more heightened way than I would have expected.
Yeah. Well,
I think go ahead.
okay. I was just gonna say I was talking to at the recent like NYU Game Center kind of event, No Quarter. I was talking to Liz Ryerson, friend of the show,
Hmm.
and yeah, she was sort of saying that the like on one hand, yeah, things are really bad right now, but she has this expectation that down the line, like things, 20, 30 years from now, things might actually turn out like really good. Um, you know, if if people are able to kind of like rise up and overcome a lot of this, or if out of necessity they have to, then like there is a kind of inflection point for what could be a much better world. It could also be a much worse one, but we actually have a chance now to, I think, get rid of a lot of the oppressive systems that have been harming people for the duration of our entire lives and for many generations.
Yeah.
Like, we're not cooked. It's not over till we say it's over.
It's the whole widespread horribleness of it all seems like it's proving less popular than you would expect. Like I think even like I don't know, like my sister and I share quite different politics, but I think even she is like, wait a minute, no, I don't believe in some of these horrible things, and I think that there's something about
Right.
believing there.
And I think if you
Yeah.
look at like, the Trump camp, they seem to be trying to take their victory lap, but I think that they're making a big
Yeah.
assumption that they've already won. And a lot of people are like, no, no, we don't like this actually. Um, and that's a good sign.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we should, rest on our laurels or that the normies are going to like carry this for us by voting everyone out. Um,
Right.
but it does suggest that there is room for some sort of a groundswell movement and that things can get better if everyone keeps pushing.
Yeah, I would say so.
Um, let's see. Other things that are cool and good. Um, oh, yeah. Within that, I would say the big trend this year, obviously, or a big trend this year, obviously, in games has been unionization. That
Yeah.
deserves recognition because there's been tons of it, especially within Microsoft, as a result of CWA and their neutrality agreement, which unfortunately on the Activision Blizzard side of things has lapsed. Um, as I learned while reporting on id Software's union, it has not lapsed yet for the ZeniMax side of the company. So that means that there could and probably still will be more unions over there that kind of break cover soon. It'll be interesting to see how this trend continues in the new year, given that, again, that neutrality agreement is no longer in place for a large portion of the company. Does that mean that they still, especially given how many unions already exist in the company and how much they're helping each other, that still more unions form just because there's this infrastructure in place now?
Mm.
Or does that mean that, Microsoft says, okay, time to union bust as hard as we possibly can on any sort of new union forming. And so then as a result, you have these pockets of the company that are unionized for the foreseeable future. but others are kind of stuck in place.
I mean, to the previous topic, like it's a tough time to unionize, right? We've got a very different NLRB than we used to have.
Yeah.
But then it's cool to see people. Wait, people are still doing it, right? And that is awesome.
Yeah, and they've been making good progress. They are,
Yeah.
you know, like they've said in like every interview that I've done with various parts of the company, like whether it's the Diablo Union or the ID Union or whatever, they are all very aware of the other unionized segments of the company and what they've already fought for, and in a couple cases been able to win in contracts. And like that makes it easier for us. Like each thing is a step toward better and better treatment of workers, better protections, bigger asks. So like it starts with a trickle and becomes a wave or whatever, right? And that's where things seem to be headed. Hopefully, they'll continue in that direction. We also have over in the UK the IWGB helping Rockstar workers. I think that's been a watershed moment for them
Yeah.
in terms of recognition of that union and in terms of their own efforts becoming less behind the scenes and more out in the open. So, do I wish that this had all happened sooner? Absolutely. But that it's happening at all is a promising development.
I'd say so, yeah. And
Yeah.
it just it feels nice. I don't know. Feels good. Like when things feel good.
Hey, yeah, right. Take them where I can get them. Let's see. In terms of trends (parentheses derogatory), Saudi Arabia buying everything.
Boo.
Yep, including electronic arts now. Um, that story had a development in it, in that there was a consortium allegedly at first of various parties that were buying EA together, and then we found out the actual percentages, and it's like, no, it's just Saudi Arabia and like Affinity Partners or whatever, the Jared Kushner little
Which Saudi
company
Arabia is also
barely has
heavily
a hand in
invested
it.
in. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and it's the
Um,
Saudi Arabian government, yeah, I think specifically,
yeah.
or entities
Uh,
associated with the government.
yeah. But I mean, it's not just that. Saudi Arabia now has a hand or a big hand in like the fighting game community. They own Evo. Let's see. They have bought up like Niantic, Pokemon Go, all of that. Like they are trying to be everywhere in games in a way that unfortunately is paying off. Like the Esports World Cup. Last year I think there was a lot of pushback to the Saudi element of it all. And this year, as I've said on a previous episode of this show, like talking to people in and around that kind of scene, the esports world, the ones who still are pushing back increasingly feel like they are the minority and not sort of the larger group in the situation. That a lot of people are just like, tacitly accepting it or taking the money or being like, yeah, it's just the thing now. It's a big part of the esports world. You got to go there and compete at the same time each year. So,
Mm-hmm.
that feels like unfortunately it's going to be a trend that we see even more of in the new year, except for the fact that it does. There were reports recently that Saudi Arabia is running low on money to do all of this
Right.
stuff with.
I was wondering when that was gonna happen, actually, because
Yeah.
like everyone's like, oh yeah, they can just keep printing money, but it feels like they also spend it quite like far too much of
I mean,
it.
they spend it. Yeah, like it will never
Like
run out.
fucking all of the like building a fake city kind of shit,
Yeah.
like that's like not cheap. You can only pay the
When also
guys
like,
who work at McKinsey for so long.
yeah, and a lot of these are not profitable ventures. They're instead meant to kind of increase Saudi Arabia's influence on the world stage, to give them a greater foothold in culture. But the thing about culture is that that's like, a soft power strategy. It doesn't necessarily make bank.
Yeah.
And so there is sort of the questions around, okay, so how does this strategy work long term? And when you can't just bankroll everything anymore, then what happens?
Right.
And I hope that we find out the answer to that question sooner rather than later, because I think that the answer is, yeah, you just sort of fade back into obscurity.
I
Um,
I do wonder what happens when they get to the dead mall part. I mean, like I feel like climate change and just running out of money at a really really fast rate leads to just like the idea of like, oh, like kind of Last of Us style, like the indoor mall that has like the ski slope, and there's just like a bunch of like weird animals in there now, like overgrown. Like, what do we see when these like horrible Ozymandias looking places that like shouldn't exist, like fall through disrepair because the money's not there anymore.
right.
Maybe that's
Let's
all like
see.
the fanciful. I don't know.
It's now time for the in memoriam segment of these awards. Um, that goes to three different, very distinct individuals. Two of them are animals. Arara, the horse that inspired a horse girl, and Uma Matsume, um, sadly deceased. Uh, I wrote a eulogy for that horse earlier this year. And then Tortellini, the Elden Ring playing fish, also deceased. Rudy wrote a eulogy for that fish as well. And then finally, Stream East, the sports piracy website that got taken down by the government earlier this year. There's still like offshoots available of it online, but they're not the real thing. Um, yeah, rest in peace to all of those. Again, very distinct entities, very different things. Uh, they live on in our hearts.
You're a
Let's
winner to
see.
me.
Yes. Yeah. Arara, for those who don't know, was like the losingest racehorse in Japanese history, basically. Um, and as a result, actually did like become famous and then had an up and down rest of her life, but was beloved by many.
I feel like that game. I saw someone. It might have been Apple Cider actually. So this is somebody on Blue Sky talking about the horse game, and I had a moment of like, is this horses or is this Uma Musume? And I feel like I remember reading a series of posts and trying to be like, well, it could be either. Like, and then eventually thinking like, oh, okay, wait, I think that it's. But I feel like two big horse games of the year is confusing to me.
Has anybody
Hey,
And
modded the girls
people are vague.
into horses?
Yeah.
That's the real question.
a
Has
really
anyone?
funny idea for a blog that I had yesterday that I wish I had done because I had like I did a piece earlier this year where I had the main quest Alice Rupert comment on Uma Musume, and then I was like, oh, I should have done the same thing
Right.
but with
Yeah.
horses, the game, which would have been so stupid and so fucked. Um, but I was like, it's too late for that. The moment has passed. Be a funny bit though. Um, let's see, two very related awards. That was a load of nothing goes to Half-Life 3, which everyone thought was going to be shown at the
Every
Game
year.
Awards,
I did
and of course it
never
turned out to be
thought that
nothing.
shit was real. That's like some like Titanfall. Actually, I will say the Titanfall thing was very funny because I did go in the Titanfall subreddit the next day. Because remember, like Keely's like, I got a
Mhm,
big fucking thing, and it's like all the respawn people are doing a game that whose name I forget, and it's like
mhm.
I'm glad you guys are doing it, but the fucking Titanfall subreddit was just like an image of a guy like looking into the middle distance, being like, what the fuck? Because they're just not making a Titanfall.
Yeah. But yeah, the other related award to that is Better Luck Next Year goes to Elder Scrolls
Oh,
6.
wait,
You
what
know,
about
we'll see.
the
Probably we won't
Ubisoft
see it next year either, but you never know.
the Ubisoft delaying their earnings thing? I feel
Oh yeah,
like
that was
for
also
like
a load of nothing.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
they're
like
like,
24
oh,
hours, we
the
all
wheels are
thought
gonna fall
something.
off. It's over.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
making Nicole pre-write a whole thing. I was like, I'm ready, and
Yeah,
then it
but
was
that
like,
also felt like even
made a
then that was
mistake.
one where I didn't fall for it in that moment. I was like, this just
Oh, I
feels like
totally did.
a procedural.
I
Oh
thought it was
no,
something
it's like,
crazy. Yeah.
and then another related award that I just came up with for that kind of line of thought of things that we'll never see probably. The Can't Believe It Actually Happened award goes to the Proto Men releasing Act 3.
Yeah, good for them.
Um, yeah, and it's pretty good. I've listened to it, and it feels a lot like, and this is getting into the weeds of a band that probably I'm the only person on this show who actually listens to. Um,
Come on.
but do you
I've
listen to the
listened to.
Proto Men?
Yeah, I went to their show in
Okay,
like
okay.
20 years ago or something now.
Fuck yeah, yeah. Well, Act 3 feels like to me uh, Act 2.5,
Yeah.
but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's still really good. It has a lot of like clever callbacks, and it ends on a, if nothing else, like definitive note, or at least like it goes for it with the ending. It is controversial within the community because it's definitely not a happy ending, but it's like, okay, you guys decided to make a statement.
I
Um,
uh I listened to like from that original first album again a little bit because it's been like years. It's still really good. It's like one of the
it
few
is.
like because it was always adjacent to like nerdcore shit, and it's like that
Mhm.
stuff has aged like fucking sour milk for the most part,
Yeah.
and like nobody's listening to like MC Chris, but like Proto Man, it's like a good punk album.
No, I
It's
mean,
nice.
Proto Men, what they did correctly is they decided to be a good rock band first and foremost that just happens to be about Mega Man. And like a lot of the songs, if you listen to them, you wouldn't even necessarily know. The first act is definitely more steeped in kind of proto like Mega Man stuff, like in terms of lyrical references. Second album is just like a good album about two guys who decide they don't like each other, and how does that resolve? Um, yeah, no, good band. Can't believe Act Three actually came out. It's been people have been waiting fucking 20 years for this thing. People just thought it would never happen. So it actually happened. Can't believe it. Um, let's see. What are some other good ones? Oh yeah, career pivot of the year goes to Gabe Newell, who builds yachts now. Um,
Really
don't think that we saw
confusing.
that coming.
So
Yeah.
confusing. He because he's like he's not only builds yachts, he's also in the James he has the James Cameron Award for a guy who de facto lives on the sea now and
Yes.
has one of the he bought one of those submarines that like one of the ones that's gone the deepest and
Mhm.
like I don't know. I don't that doesn't make it better. It just makes it weirder. Cuz it's like feels closer to when he was doing like I'm a blacksmith now, except like the hyper billionaire version of that.
Oh yeah. I feel like I've told
That's
this story before, but I'm working on a novel, and there's a moment where some people sort of steal a boat, and it needs to be a boat that's like fancy, but too small for what they need it for. And so I spend a lot of time on like yacht websites now and trying to be like, what is the boat? And so I feel like when the Gabe Newell thing happened, I was like, oh, I go to the company, like look at their yachts, like could I make this? So I feel like I've developed a weird appreciation for yachts now,
I just want to know
and also how
like
one steals them, which is difficult. I've learned.
yeah, like I want to know like they keep saying they're doing research and I'm like what kind of research are you doing, man? What's the white paper about? Let me see it.
yeah.
A lot of stuff going on in the world of yachts.
Yeah.
How
Also,
many guys can you how many what do you call it? Balls energy drink can you drink in one day? That's
there we
that's
go. Now that's some research I'm interested
that's
in.
serious research. If that's what it's doing, then
Yeah.
I take back all
I
statements about him.
I was listening to a podcast last night about like just, you know, uh, basically people examining a recent book about Elon Musk, and they're talking about Neuralink and how, fucked up it was to monkeys. And I feel like the balls experiment would be similar. We just like see headlines about like, 40 dead monkeys from trying to like feed them balls energy drink to
No,
see
those
how
the,
much can be
think,
consumed in one day.
I
I
feel like
think
it
I
would
just got
have
that book from the library.
I feel like it would
Actually,
have a positive effect on them if anything. I mean, they would just get
Oh,
they would
we'd get a Planet of the Apes situation
you
out of
would
it.
get a
It would
Planet of
give
the
them
Apes.
intelligence. It would be
You
shit. We'd be like, shit.
that's how
No, we
you make
shouldn't have done that.
Caesar. You give him the you go to Micro Center with a chimp and you give him the many of the various flavors of balls that Micro Center
And then he
still
makes the most
sells.
sophisticated computer in history
He's gonna
from
get a
Micro Center
40
parts.
yeah, he's gonna get a 50 or no, he'll do something with like Intel Arc GPUs that nobody was expecting because they're cheaper, but like they're good at video transcoding.
Yes. That's exactly what he'll say. We'll be like, oh, we just accidentally ushered in a new era. We should have thought this through.
That's how you get John Huston in makeup.
And
He played Dr.
Elon
Zaius,
Musk
right?
has had a weird arc this year. I guess I feel like the year began
as
with us
opposed to the
talking
normal
about
arcs
him.
that he had every other
Yeah,
It
year.
was
we talk about
weirder.
him sort of all the time, but like, what's he? Does he? Is he irrelevant again? What's he doing now? Like,
Yeah, well, he
his
started the
arc
year
is
by
a little
killing hundreds
AI
of
world.
thousands of people,
Yeah,
something
but
that
then
just
after that,
nobody mentions in articles, even though that seems like the most relevant thing that he's done in his whole life.
yeah,
Um, yeah. And then, yeah,
well,
from there, he went back to, trying
whatever the
not to
fuck
run
it
his
was.
companies into the ground as opposed to
Yeah,
letting them just catch on fire and die.
Isn't he
yeah.
mostly just like talking to his robots? Like, isn't
It
he
seems
just
like
talk?
it.
I feel like that's what actually happened. Is I think he's giving himself cyberpsychosis by talking to, like, Grok in the form of like, what do you call it? That one girl from Death Note, but like
Yeah, yeah.
drawn with somebody drew that with their feet. You know, like it's really the waifu that he had is so fucking embarrassing, dude. Like many things, it's like
Yep.
he even within the like even within the world that he's operating in, it's embarrassing.
Yep. Let's see. Actually, you know what? That's who the Crash Out of the Year award goes to. I didn't have a recipient for it. There we go. Elon Musk, Crash Out of the Year, because he spent the entire year crashing out, and I don't think anyone else has really done that short of Ethan Klein. They're tied actually. Crash Out of the Year
Well,
goes
what
to
a
Elon Musk and Ethan Klein.
I'm tempted to argue for the Olivia Newsy Ryan Lizza thing, but I think it's too niche.
Yeah, and I think that also like those are relatively contained crash outs that started kind of
Yeah.
recently. Whereas again, in the cases of both Elon Musk and Ethan Klein, their crash outs started at the beginning of the year and are ongoing. Will almost
Yeah.
certainly continue into 2026
They
in
both
ways that we
talk
cannot even begin to predict.
they both talk very fast for some reason and
Yeah.
slur their
Well, it's
words.
because like, and it's the opposite of the thing where you have too many thoughts in your mind and you're struggling to get them all out in an organized
Yeah.
fashion. It's they don't have enough. And so they're doing that like Looney Tunes thing of like building a bridge in the air out of planks. Um, but yeah, let's see. Other awards, I'm almost out of them, thankfully. Book of the year obviously goes to mine, which came out earlier this year. It's called Stream Dig. You can
Congrats.
get it wherever books are sold. It's about Twitch. I've
Hmm.
heard it's pretty good. I actually,
It's my favorite book.
I don't even, I don't think it's remotely the best book that came out this year, but I don't read enough books, so wins by default because I did write one book.
Mm.
Let's see. What are some other ones that because I want to end on a particular one. Oh yeah, let's see. Event of the year, TennoCon, which is the Warframe convention.
Oh,
It
nice.
rules. I've never been before.
Uh,
It was my favorite event that I went to. It just has a more uh, enjoyable kind of like I don't know. It's very small relative to other video game events, and as a result, like it just feels nice. Everyone's nice and chill and cool, and you get to know a lot of people. It feels unlike other video game events, which I think just they're very glossy, but there's a lack of soul to a lot of the ones that I've gone to. Um,
I was
yeah,
because you mentioned no quarter. I kind of missed it for a little bit, and then I was in DC, and I feel like going back to it this year, I was definitely a reminder of like what a cool space that is, and the kind of cool
mm.
things people are doing, and like seeing all my pals, and I thought that was really nice. My favorite event of the year was when I went to the Moby Dick marathon.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that
It was
seemed
way
like it was
cooler.
extremely cool and unique.
Yeah, which I still haven't finished that book. I like have like 200 pages left. It's like sitting on my bed, like my couch
Moby
table.
Dick?
Somebody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna read it. Yeah, I'm gonna finish it."
You know,
And haven't.
that
So,
would be really funny if you do that again and like because like the world of
well,
Twitch
I
and
could
live
because
streaming
there's
has this
the
obsession with
the
marathons, right? Like marathons
yeah.
of games and things like that. But you could do a reading Moby Dick at sea marathon, which of course would
Well,
not
there's
be an entertaining live stream at all unless you read it out loud, which would make it take too long.
They do
So
that.
the New Bedford one is
Yeah, I
in
was gonna
January.
say.
The first weekend in January, and me and Rev Valentine talked a little about going, and I assume we've lost track of it. But like, it wouldn't be that hard for me to get to. You can just take the train to Boston and then take the commuter rail to New Bedford. And I'm like, I should go. I should go do this again twice in 1 year.
Don't they get like a
yeah,
different
Um,
person to like read it, put like part of a chapter?
yeah, a
Like
different person reads every chapter and stuff. But the New Bedford one
that'd be
is like the
fun.
most like famous one. And,
Manicure
if
Manicure read one of those. I remember that
TJ,
was
I see you in chat. So if you want to go to New Bedford, cough, cough. But someone's got to go with me. But I don't know anyone who wants to
um,
stay up for 25 hours listening to Moby Dick.
let's
Um,
see. Somebody just randomly. Okay, so substance of the year. Despite what somebody said in chat
mm,
randomly when they said cocaine, no. Substance of the year is creatine. Um,
yeah.
Creatine, it works. I
Creatine has
was not
always
somebody
worked.
who was like, yeah, but like I was not converted until this year.
Really?
I was just like,
it's like a
taking
bodybuilder powder. Is that it?
it basically
Yeah.
causes like
Is
your
that?
muscles to retain a little bit of additional water. And in so doing, A, they look better, and B, like you get a little bit more strength, which then allows you to gain more strength through lifting heavier, and it
That
sort of
doesn't
compounds on itself.
sound true.
It
It
does.
works.
It's
I'm
bizarre.
sorry.
No, no, this is the one thing. So, like, I don't know. I'm going to reveal something about myself, and that is I spent a lot of time on the bodybuilding.com forums, and,
Mhm.
like, that's how you get the weird, like, Maha adjacent. I hate that, like, guys like that are, like, now right wing, exclusively right wing.
Yeah, I become like RFK
Yeah,
advocate.
but like I
Yeah.
used to be on like the nootropics forums and like the bodybuilding forums. I remember in like high school looking up like there, there was like a whole time where you would get like be able to get like pro hormones. You could used to be able to get hormones from GNC. It was fucked up. He used to be able to just go in the back and get
This
Andro.
is like, I mean,
There
this
was a
is they
glass
just had
case. They
a
opened it up.
yeah.
It was fine.
They just
It
had
was
a hearing. They
fine.
just had a hearing last week about this, and the fact that like cis men can just wander in and out getting testosterone, and
You
I
could
have
just
to
do
like,
that.
please,
Yeah.
sir, may I have some more at
S-
every
oh, oh, oh,
fucking
Right. Oh yeah, no.
pharmacy in
Well,
the city is like
gender-affirming care
horseshit
for
to me.
men,
Yeah,
gender-affirming
shit,
care
man.
for men, A, is a massive industry, and
Yeah,
B, it's like totally accepted in society to the point that
Also,
nobody thinks about it as
except for
gender-affirming
me.
care. You know, I mean,
for
like
cis
that's also,
people, for cis
hair
children.
replacement and things like that.
Bullshit, man.
Literally,
Yeah.
literally, if you like, they like want to give hormones to cis kids if they think they are
Mm.
not having like puberty or like fast
I
enough
dated
Right.
a
or too
cis
slow.
guy that happened to. He got growth hormones as a
Yeah,
kid. He got testosterone because he really wasn't into me transitioning, and I was like, the irony here is not lost on me.
but no, creatine is like the
Yeah, it
one
works.
thing that works, and now
Here you go.
and the ladies like it too now. There's been a big
Yeah.
thing with like I think TikTok and like I think people outside of the meatheads who study meathead science doing it, and it fucking works. It's great. Makes you feel great. Makes you think great.
Yeah, yeah. It
Good
actually
for
like there's also evidence that
Really?
it helps your brain, that it's good for, you know,
it.
memory and things like that as well.
Yeah, it's the only thing that works, and and if you get it correctly, if you just get a fucking big bucket of it for like $12, it's like
Yeah.
so good. It's beautiful. Creatine rocks. Here
Yeah.
we here at Aftermath endorse creatine.
We do. And in fact, if any like
Uh,
creatine company would like to work with us, have a spot on the show, which we're basically already doing right now anyway, then yeah, hit us up.
That's an unregulated industry, but I do know which ones are good. I forget off the top of my
Yeah.
head though.
I hate when sports get into
Yeah.
weirdo chemicals.
Even then, like, your personal himbo in chat said you just have to drink a shitload of water.
You do have to
Yeah,
drink
sort of.
water.
I mean, it's good to drink a lot of water anyway, though. Like, you're not
It's good to
really
drink a
hurting
lot of
yourself by
water,
drinking
yeah.
more water. In fact,
The
here we go. Look at that.
size of the
Water. Water in my, oh man, this is actually really funny. My basically entirely decayed Discord cup. This
Look
Discord
at
brand,
that.
but it's like entirely come off
Where'd
of
that
the.
come from?
People don't know
Yeah.
this. This is my what do you call it? My FJ bottle from AliExpress. It's made by the same people who make Feijin water bottle company makes all the hydro flask stuff. I've sourced it. I've reverse engineered it, and this is my favorite bottle. It's like a big fucked up jug that has a magnetic thing in it, and this is full of weird like electrolytes and creatine.
All right, let's see. I'm gonna go with final award now, which is um, really foreshadowing, I guess, or a kind of a cliffhanger ending to the show. Best idea for an award show that I had while coming up with awards for this one. The Rammies, which of course is short for the ramifications. And it will be an award show that I hopefully do next year around people not considering the ramifications of the decisions that they have made, mainly surrounding like video game, news events and things like that. For example, a big Rammy Award winner, the biggest Rammy Award winner this year would definitely be EA getting bought by Saudi Arabia. EA executives would be the winners of the Rammy, like the top award, I think, of the year.
For me,
Um,
I will say the Rammy goes to RAM manufacturers because
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is one of the most consequential things that happened this year, and
Oh yeah,
it
that's
will
true. Oh, that'd be so good. Okay,
it
yes,
will
then the Rammy
fuck.
definitely goes to RAM
It's
manufacturers.
fucking up. Like I actually am really curious how this fucks with Apple because like
Yeah.
Apple holds grudges really like SKY SYK I always forget Hynix and like fucking Samsung going up to like Apple being like you got to pay us 3 times as much and just like Steve Jobs too looking at him like Tim Apple looking at him like he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like, I'm gonna kill you guys. I'm gonna bury your company.
Yeah. But okay, next year we'll actually have a more detailed Rammy. So it won't be Stuff of the Year. That's why
good.
Stuff of the Year was our first and maybe last annual one. But
Set
yeah,
yourself a Slack reminder. Set a bot for next year. It'll remind you.
yes. But yeah, next year we're doing the Rammies. All right. But one thing that we definitely will keep doing until the end of time is the mailbag. So let's transition over to that. By the way, if you would like to contribute to the mailbag, you can do so by subscribing to Aftermath at our member tier, which is $10 per month. You'll gain access to the Discord, and the Discord is where the magic happens. And by the magic, I mean the mailbag. Anyway, you're going to find out why right now as we start to answer your wonderful questions. All right, so from Metroid, a group of NYU students approach you about running the Aftermath show on public access television. Would you accept? And if so, what kind of segments would you want to see ran? We definitely accept. That sounds great. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it'd
Chris
be like
has so
our version of the
many.
One Up show.
Yeah, Chris has so many videos. You could just run weird video clips.
I will say for me personally, I have God, what the fuck was it? Actually, my film teacher, Gene Stavis,
Mhm.
ran the first gay television show in history, actually, in the like 70s, early 80s. It's a really good show. You can go back and watch it. I was watching an episode, and it's him talking to like this guy who was like a dual agent who was the bouncer at Stonewall, and he was
Oh,
just like
wow.
got like just like New York guy, like he's like a homosexual with like a bit that like looks like he works at just like in a construction yard, not in like the good way, and he's got like fucking tattoos and shit, and it's his name's like Tim the Snake or something like that, and he's just like, yeah, I talked to the cops and then I ratted out the mob because like the mob ran all the gay bars, and it's just
Mhm.
him on like 1977 public access TV. New York City public access fucking ruled when that was a thing because they had a weird thing where they just had to let you have a show. It was like
Mhm.
it was like weird proto YouTube stuff, and like as a result, there's just some of the best stuff came out of New York public access.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that like a show like that could be fun in terms of covering, more local game stuff because there is a scene in New York. It's just not like the traditional, I think people are like, oh yeah, what major developers are out there? And it's like, yeah, there's like a Rockstar Satellite Studio and, Avalanche or whatever, but that's not really the point. The point is there's a lot of like really good local games culture in New York. There's spaces like, Wonderville and Boshi's Place, things like that. So that could be cool to cover in a
Yeah.
more direct fashion. Also, as far as segments that like we personally could do go, I mean, and I think that honestly, Aftermath Hours needs this still. Chris's hyperfixation corner would be
I think we should just
pretty,
break that
pretty good.
out into its own
You
thing.
just did that with
Yeah,
creatine.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Things like that. I think that we could do programming rooted in our respective, personalities and what we already care about. So extensions of things that you already see on the site anyway, just, with voice and video and apparently NYU backing. Uh,
I so before I forget, it's called The Emerald City is the name of it, and you can look it up on YouTube. It's from like 1977. It is also like importantly right before AIDS, and so it is a really interesting look to see television starring and for gay people. Like there's like really interesting commercials there of like they'll have like gay bathhouse commercials, which is crazy. Like it kind of makes you like wonder like, damn, was a better world possible? Like what would have happened had had HIV not like just taken over that the gay community, and it's just like
yeah.
this really fascinating like time and place, and that only happened because of weird fruity New York art investment that like they're like, yeah, you can have your gay TV show.
All right, from Mystic Eddie T. What are you grateful for specifically from this past year, unrelated to Aftermath itself, whether in your own personal lives, in video game culture, or the broader world? Let's see. What am I grateful for this year? Um, hmm. I mean, I'm grateful for a lot of things. I just can't think of them right now. Um,
um, I feel like it came up for me like earlier this week, but I haven't lived in DC in a while. But I was a friend of mine has had to travel out of town a lot, and I was saying like, oh, this sucks. This must be how you felt when I was gone. It really sucks when
mhm.
you're gone, and thinking about just being glad to be back in the city where my friends live and how much I had forgotten what it was like to like your friends are just here and you can see them and like
Yeah.
it's nice to sort of be um that a lot of my friends are around.
Yeah. Honestly, it's nice to live in the city that's like the real capital of America because it also means that my friends who don't live here come here. And so I can just be like, oh, yeah, I get to see all these people throughout the year that I wouldn't if I lived in a different city. So it's like, oh, yeah, I'm coming to New York this week. And I'm like, sick. That's great. Um, yeah, let's see. I'm grateful for my cat. because
Aw.
it's cool to have a nice little animal in your home. She has diabetes now, so that's a shame.
Aw.
But we're working through that. But no, I got back from a night out last night, and I was like, man, it's cool to just hang out with this little animal. She's not very smart. She doesn't have a lot going on, not a lot of like interiority, but she's very nice. Good thing to be able to come home to.
I like your cat.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Wait, Chris, is there anything that you
Oh
are
yeah.
grateful for?
I'm grateful for like I don't know. I'm grateful that I have um okay, so before this I kind of working I've been working through this like mod for my keyboard where I make it wireless and then have this little cool dongle attached to it. And I kind of fucked up my keyboard in the process. I have to going back and fix it afterwards. But I'm glad I have a space for those things, not just
Mhm.
a like from a workplace perspective, but also a place to talk about that and a place to put those things there. Uh, it's the ZMK Prospector dongle. You make it yourself. It shows you what layers you're currently using, and it makes it so that the two sides of your split keyboard use less energy because they're reporting to a single source instead of one going to the other and then the other going to your computer. And it's also nice. It looks really pretty. It's like a little 3D printed thing. Um, but I like that I have an outlet for that, and I think that like a lot of my favorite writing that I've done personally has come from that. And also, like I don't know, I like reporting and sort of exploring technology in that way. And so for me, it makes me feel good.
Mhm. All right, from Mish. You are cursed by an evil wizard, and the entire staff of Aftermath is turned into Muppets, except for one. Who is the human? And for the rest, what's your Muppet look like?
I'm the human. Muppets are horrible.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Riley is the human for sure.
Riley
there's
is the
no,
human.
I'm like Michael
Mm,
Caine in the Muppets Christmas Carol.
I
I'm not having
disagree.
this. I'm
No,
not having this bullshit, man.
I think it's funnier if it's Luke.
And I do
I
think it's
I
funnier if
think
it's
it's
Luke.
funnier if it's Luke because there's just
Yeah,
because
it's not
we
funny if it's Luke.
all of us have like Riley, you do have some like scooter adjacent Muppet like tendencies. Luke's the only person I see in our group who doesn't have Muppet like tendencies because I think
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like the most normal person and like of us. Like he's a dad and he's just and also it's funnier when like the person who is reacting to the Muppets, it's always better when they are either British or a former British colony.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right.
So you
Yeah, I
get the
think that I
like
have,
Yeah.
deadpan
I've,
Australian when we're going, yay!
yeah, exactly. And like I have hair
Yeah.
and occasionally mannerisms already befitting a Muppet, so you know, most of the way there. Yeah, no, I think that
Just
definitely
hate
having
them
Luke
so
be sort
much.
of put upon by all of it, just sort of like being present and saying, okay, I've got to deal with this because like it's the company that I work for, but Jesus Christ, like I could not want any of this less is pretty perfect.
No.
All right, from Seg. Do you have a winter holiday seasonal game you come back to? Doesn't need to be holiday themed, just a title you dust off and play this time of year. I talked about this previously. This time of year, I'm always playing some sort of a large RPG, usually a JRPG. Not necessarily a specific game, but that genre calls to me during the cozy seasons. So I'm like, okay, well, I got time to kill, and it'll be fun to immerse myself in something and sort of have a thing to go back to every day.
I have a train ride to Massachusetts every year, so I need a train game. And the last time it was Balatro, and because I was on my phone, and I'm like, oh, I can't make that mistake again. So I do, but like the Steam Deck is great for that because I do get to
Mm-hmm.
like figure out
I
like
should get a
Yeah,
Steam
same. Steam Deck
Deck.
is my
you
JRPG machine.
should. You should actually. You'd love it
Yep.
because it's perfect for the kind of games that I think you personally like, which is just like
Yeah, it's
Yes.
like sometimes I bring my Switch with me to places, but I don't really have any games on it that are like games. Um, and Steam Deck's not that expensive either.
I do like the OLED one. I will admit it does make a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, the screen is really nice. Like if you can get the OLED, you should shell out for it because
There's
it's
also
it's just better.
there's also a bunch of little tiny things they improved between the regular and non OLED that aren't the OLED part. It's like the fan is less loud, like little
Yeah.
tiny things make a little more sense. I think if I remember correctly, but like yeah, it's worth the money. Even the entry level like LCD one is good too. You know, it's just it's having the like pure blacks. It's like oh, I can't go back to this. This fucked me up.
Yeah. All right, let's see. From Apple Cider, any New Year's traditions? mean, go to parties.
New Year's Day, I go to the spa. I go
Oh,
to the
that's a
Russian
tradition.
baths
Sounds
every
nice.
fucking New Year's Day, and I just sweat out what was normally decadence before that. This is a tradition that me and my friend have done for years. She will just rent like a fucking table at a Russian spot, and then like we will just like sweat it out, and it's fucking great. I highly recommend.
Hell yeah.
Also, just like there's a lot of spas you can go to in New York.
Yeah,
Like,
have you ever been to the one on Governor's Island? I was just looking it up this week.
no, is it good?
This one on Governor's, I don't know. It's gonna be my birthday in early January, and I was like, I should do something. And I was trying to think of something to do, and I was like, it'd be fun to like, because like years ago when I was in Norway, I did like a real Norway sauna that some people had built, where it's like deadly hot, and then you leap into the ocean, and it was January and it was freezing, and I thought everybody was
Yeah.
crazy. And you do this a couple times, and you lie down in the snow, and you can like see through time. And like in America, I've never been able to recreate this because saunas like are quite nice, but they're like warm, or hot, and they're not like I remember I had a metal chain, and they were like, you should take that off because you will burn
Go to King
yourself.
Spa.
Like we had bottles of water, and it was like the water got too hot, like really frighteningly hot.
You need to go to either a Korean or a Russian spa.
Yeah, like
The
I don't know,
Russian
you can find
spas,
them.
the Russian spas are the ones where it's like they actually have the guy. Like, there's a bunch in New York.
You need like violence.
You
You know?
need the Korean ones are. There's one in. Okay, so there's. I won't get too much into it. There is
The
one.
Spa Castle or whatever, right?
Don't
People
fuck
go to
with.
that.
Okay,
Right?
Spa Castle I
Oh,
love, but that's not serious. I will say it
yeah.
is. It
See,
is a fun diversion. It's functionally a water park. There's the one
yeah.
weird hotel in New Jersey. There's one in Flushing that has like where I think like the logo is like ripped off. There's Juvenex in the city. There's the one King Spa is probably the best one if you're going
Mm.
for like casual, and you can just take a shuttle from like the middle of town and it just goes to New Jersey, and then there's just a bunch of stuff there. I think you could stay there for like 24 hours if you want to. But
Uh,
it's the not fucking around one. And there's one that's
yeah.
sauna there that's just completely fucked up evil, and that you just go into, and like but the Russian ones have the cold pool. So if you want the cold plunge,
Yes,
you
you
have to
want
go to
that. I
you have
want
to want to
the
go to the there's like one in there's a bunch of good Russian ones in the city, and then
It's
there's
the
the one that
Governor's
John Belushi
Island
went to
has.
that's owned by two brothers that hate each other and that swap ownership every day.
There's one that's powered by crypto mining that Hellgate wrote about.
Oh
And I think
yeah,
I think Max wrote about it. I was like, oh, it's pretty good though. Which I'm like a little intrigued by. I don't know that I would ever go there, but I'm like, oh. There's one
Let's
here
see.
in Brooklyn, like in someone's backyard or something crazy, but it's kind of expensive. I'm not a huge spa guy, but I hate massages or anything like that. But I just want to like experience physical extremes in a notable way.
All right. Let's see. The next few, I think we can get through pretty quickly.
Yeah, the
Um,
crypto hits the water. I'll put the link in chat.
let's see. From Wabik. This is not intended to be an accusatory question in any way, but an honest ask for you folks in the situation. Please feel free to ignore. I've seen some journalists commit to boycotting the New York Times for its coverage of certain issues, and I know some Aftermath folks have written for the NYT recently. What kind of factors do you guys weigh when deciding where to publish your work? That was Gita specifically who wrote for the Times, and so you'd have to ask them to directly answer your question. Um, and then more broadly, I mean, most of us just publish here.
yeah. I
Like, I
mean,
think
it
that,
makes it a lot easier. It just makes
yeah,
it way easier.
yeah, I don't think that, like, I think that, the only times that we publish work elsewhere is like for promotional purposes. We'll occasionally have things cross posted by, sites like Defector or whatever. But that's an outlier. We typically just write an Aftermath.
I did get
Um,
interviewed by the Times before like that all that mishgas happened in terms of
mhm.
like because like they wanted to talk about the AI like weird AI denoising video thing I did, and then
Oh,
they
right,
just
right.
didn't fucking link to my article or mention my site,
Yep,
and I
Oh, that's
fucking
good
that's the
enough.
and
times.
that made me hate the Times even more.
Yep,
I mean,
that is their typical thing.
I told them to do
I was
one
thinking about
thing.
this. I think about this with the Washington Post a lot, where we're seeing terrible things happen there. But like, we know people there, and they do great work. Is like,
Yeah,
at what point does something as an outlet does overwhelm everything else it does? I think is such a difficult question, and that we all know that like the Times or the Post or whatever is full of people who have nothing to do with the garbage that that we'd like less, and that they
Mhm.
are doing incredible work. And I think even if you look at the Times and its horrible trans coverage, I at least still find it hard to be like to write it off wholesale. You know what I mean? And I don't know if some of that is just like propaganda, where you're like, it's still the New York Times, though. Like I
Right.
think if they were to come to me tomorrow and say, "Here's a job," I think I would have to think about it really hard, I guess.
Eh.
Um,
No, I'd stay
it
at
depends what the
Aftermath.
job is, right? And so I
Yeah.
think it's like I tend to bristle a little bit when I think people paint these outlets with a super broad brush. I mean, I was just thinking about this with the Post with its terrible AI podcast thing, right? And you see this backlash, and that like people there are doing and want to do good work, and I still feel so supportive of that outlet. But then you see this terrible shit, and you're like, oh my god, like when is enough enough? And so I think it's like it's tough. Would I, as a trans person, if the Times was like, write an article about something, like blah blah blah, like would I do that? Probably not, but then I would also make a big stink out of it on social
Eh.
media to get praise for not doing it because I would feel super ripped off about not doing it.
That is
Um,
that is the
because like
thing.
we
Yeah.
know I want to not believe that there's some cabal of people in a room at the Times being like engineering some
Yeah. Well, I mean, no,
anti-trans
it's much more than
agenda.
it
It
is
seems
systemic
crazy
and
to me.
structural. It's not like a
Yeah,
cabal. It's
yeah,
a culture. It's something that is much more insidious.
yeah.
Um, yeah. But no, I'm I think more potentially harder line against the Times than maybe it's like I would not work there, and I if they asked me to write something for them, I would not do it. I just I think that it's
We
a
don't have to.
rotten fucking institution, and
But how does it? I feel like people have talked about this because I think I've seen this with mainstream trans coverage. Like I think people get a little bit just asking questions neutrality brain, and that can sometimes happen. I don't know that I want to. Well, no, it's not true. They have tons of articles there that set out to prove an agenda. I was going to say I don't think anyone sets out to, but they absolutely do. So,
yeah.
um,
Um, all right. Anyway, from Ghost Than, thoughts on the Last Jedi? It was fine. Let's see. It's just like it's been
It's-
discussed to death. I don't really know what else we can contribute there. Not to be
yeah.
dismissive, just it was fine.
The fight scenes don't
Um,
hold up at all. They look like ass, but other than that, I kind of liked it. Whatever.
yeah. Let's see from Jack. What is the ideal 29th of December? Let's see. Is that the actual? So wait, that's not even the final
what a
day of
random day. No,
December.
it's Monday.
Yeah, I know, right? So I was gonna say, like, if we're talking, the final day of December, like New Year's Eve or whatever, then
No,
again, it's going to parties, and also
it's a great one.
specifically the ideal like one of the final days of December that's not usually the last one because different time zones, is watching Japanese MMA, whatever they have on this year. Now it's Ryzen. It used to be Pride. Yeah, they always do a big spectacular show full
Pride was
of
so
weird freak show
fucking
fights.
good. Pride was
And
so fucking good.
I mean, Ryzen is the continuation of it technically in terms of a lot of management, which is good and bad. But their New Year's Eve show is always a blast. It's just a bunch of dumb, ridiculous freak show fights, and like, with all of the pomp and circumstance that the UFC refuses to kind of engage in because they have a product that they've got to sell and it must be one size fits all for every show. Whereas Ryzen is like, nah, make this ridiculous. Make all the opening or make all the fighter introductions feel like they're from anime. Like, let's do it. Um, so that's my ideal one of the final days of December.
Mhm.
Do you mean like what's a
Yeah, I feel
thing you
like
do that day? I'm sorry, I'm a
yeah.
little
I
lost on
guess
that one.
so. Yeah.
I feel like a day where you get up early, but not too early, and you get enough done, but also you get to chill out. This isn't a real kind of day, but it's my dream day of just like having enough time to like do everything I want to do without having to like sacrifice or feel stressed out. I feel like, we were talking about this yesterday in the meeting that I really need vacation, but then I think about all the things I want to do. And I don't know if this happens to you guys, but like on the weekend where I'm like, oh, I want to play games and I want to read a book and I want to do this and I want to do that. And like all those things take so much time where it's like I'm playing a video game and then like a video game takes like all day. And then
Mhm.
you're like, like, yeah, I spent my whole Saturday only doing one thing, but I needed
Right.
to do
And
like
there's that
10
moment where,
things.
like, with a video game, like the sun goes down, and you're like, "Oh, I've been
Yeah.
playing the
Like,
game this
damn
whole
it.
time," and you
The
Yeah.
sort of
sun
feel
goes
like
up though. That's
not
the
like you
worst.
wasted. Yeah, yeah, but it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like you wasted time necessarily. It's just like there's a recognition of, "Oh, this is the thing that I did."
Yeah, it should just
Yeah.
be whatever like, whenever you wake up, no matter what time it is, it should just be, like, 6:30 AM, and then you should be able to play a video
Mm,
game, and no matter what happens, it's, like, 11:30 in the morning when you're done with the video game, no matter what, and, like, you just have enough time to have a whole day, like,
yeah,
that's
I think
but
that's
that's
reasonable.
it's hard, yeah, because I wanna, like
Yeah.
I wanna do so many things, and they all take so much time, so just having enough time to, like, just do
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
All right, let's see. From Drew. Does the type of media you watch change in the winter? I find myself watching cozier things after a long cold day. Maybe it just feels cozier. Yeah, I was talking about like, playing a JRPG. It's a similar sort of thing. It's a desire for something that feels relatively cozy. Um, yeah, I think for me it moves in that direction.
Yeah, I don't know. I,
If
I'm
it's yeah.
I'm trying to think of things that that like I do during the winter that are I mean I fucking gain weight. I don't know like
Yeah,
um but other than that, yeah, I don't know.
We do get like the union. I'm still an associate member of the union, so it's like union screener season, and so I finally get
yeah,
to see all the movies that I didn't want to see in theaters because I don't like going to the movies that much. So that's kind of nice. I get to see all the
yeah.
movies everybody talked about 8 months ago.
Let's see. Okay, from Ahab, I just want to thank Nathan for shouting out Proto Man Act 3. You're welcome. And then last question from Dust. What is everyone's award show of the year? Hmm. I don't know if I actually like any award shows. Um, again, I feel like there's a lot of needless pomp and circumstance to them when I think a good award is just one or a couple guys being like, yeah, I like this thing. Or it doesn't mean that it's the best thing. It just means it's a thing that was cool to me.
I like the Oscars because I get to watch on cinema. And also because you get to sort of see the interplay of the two. Like oftentimes, sometimes we'll have people just like have the Oscars on in the background, and then like if something important happens, to be like, oh, okay, it was whatever it was that one, but like you mostly are there for Greg and Tim.
Mhm.
It doesn't exist without the Oscars. That's what makes it work.
Riley, you got anything?
I'm not an awards show guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch the Game Awards, but I don't like them.
Oh, yeah. No,
They're bad.
nobody likes the Game Awards except Jeff, who, of course,
Yeah,
loves them. They are
which
Jeff
again,
Keighley's
good,
wife,
good for
or I
him.
guess Miss
Like,
Piggy is.
yeah,
Um, but yeah. All right. Well, everybody, that was our show, our final show of the year, in fact. If you like what you heard either today or throughout the entire year, please consider subscribing to aftermath.site because it's a good website. And also, if you subscribe, that is, how we make our money and keep living. You can do that at the site itself, aftermath.site. And yeah, we thank you again for joining us, for listening to us
Yeah.
this year, for helping the site grow so much. It has been an incredible year for us as a company and collective and all of that. And we would not be here without you. So, again, it is tremendously appreciated. Um, we will be back doing this every Thursday at 4 p.m. ET in the new year. But for the next 2 weeks, we will be off as a result of the holidays. Programming notes on the site itself. We will be publishing less. We will still be posting some, but we need a break. So I think
please
most of us
God.
are going to be taking one. We'll have few things for you here and there.
Go to
But
Spa
yeah,
Riley.
yeah,
I
and
just
everyone else,
want like real vacation. God.
yeah. But yeah, enjoy your holidays, whatever you celebrate. Have a good one, and we'll be back next year.
Bye.
Bye.
Hmm.